Use permit for 1022 East Chevy Chase Drive, Suites A and B will be moved to the last item on the agenda. There is one variance scheduled for on the agenda today. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.43 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a variance shall be granted if 4 required findings are present. These 4 findings are as follows. Finding 1, that the strict application of the ordinance would result in practical difficulties or unnecessary hardship, inconsistent with the general purposes and intent of the ordinance. The second finding, that there are exceptional circumstances or conditions applicable to the property involved or the intended use or development of the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zone or neighborhood. Finding 3, that the granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in such zone or neighborhood in which the property is located. And finally, finding 4, that the granting of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. There are 2 conditional use permits on the agenda for today. Under provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.42 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit shall be granted if 4 required findings are present. They are, number 1, that the proposed use will be consistent with the elements and objectives of the general plan, that the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment, that the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of the surrounding property, and finally, that adequate public and private facilities, including utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are or will be provided for the proposed use. There is one parking reduction permit application, and the applicant is requesting this application under Section D of the code. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.50 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a parking reduction permit shall be granted if 3 required findings are present, and they are finding 1, the parking need for the land use is not as great as for similar land uses, or the parking requirement for the land use established in the zoning code is greater than what will be needed by the land use. The second finding is the intent of the parking regulations in compliance with all the other applicable provisions of this chapter is met. And finally, sufficient parking would be required to serve the use intended and potential future uses of the subject parcel. Finally, there is one parking use permit application for the use of off-site parking facilities to satisfy the parking requirements or partially satisfy the parking requirements of the proposed use. Under provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.51 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a parking use permit shall be granted if the reviewing authority first finds that each of the following exists, and there are 10 of those. The first one, that the off-site parking is a permitted or conditionally permitted use allowed within the applicable zone district and complies with all the applicable provisions of the zoning ordinance. The second, the off-site parking spaces are located within 1,000 feet measured from the primary entrance to the site. The reviewing authority may approve off-site parking spaces with valet service or where parking spaces for employees located more than 1,000 feet from the primary entrance to the site, where the separation remains reasonable for walking or pedestrian-oriented features of the intervening distance make walking between the 2 sites reasonable. 3, the applicant shall provide evidence of a valid lease or a covenant satisfactory to the city attorney. All leases subject to this provision shall have a minimum termination period of not less than 90 days. 4th, the applicant has demonstrated that off-site parking will be available to the use and that no substantial conflict will exist in the principal hours or periods of peak parking demands of any uses which are proposed to share the parking. Fifth, access to the site is adequate to accommodate the proposed off-site parking and any resulting excess traffic to the facility. Sixth, the design, location, size, and operating characteristics of the proposed off-site parking are compatible with the existing and future land uses on the site and in the vicinity of the subject property. Seventh, the establishment, maintenance, or operation of the proposed parking at the location proposed does not endanger, jeopardize, or otherwise constitute a nuisance persons residing or working in the neighborhood of the proposed parking lot or structure. 8, any off-site parking spaces in close proximity to residential uses must be designed and operated to comply with the city's noise ordinance in Chapter 8.36 of the Municipal Code. 9, any proposed valet use will not generate excessive traffic on surrounding public streets and shall not utilize any residential streets. And then finally, for shared parking, different peak hour parking demands existing between the separate uses or a single trip is likely to be made to 2 or more of the businesses proposed to share the parking. So those are the findings that need to be made for the parking use permit. Moving on, if the evidence presented in the applications and at the public hearing meets the criteria just described, then the hearing officer can either approve or impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Public notice. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners within 500 feet of the subject properties, physically posted on the site in question and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will proceed as follows. I'll read a description of the application and the request. Then I'll read the reports received from other departments and other letters or communications from interested parties. Then the case planner will make a brief overview of the case, give analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will then be asked to come forward stating both their name and address, and will be asked to present the case within 15-minute time period. Others in support or opposition of the case to the application and interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak, again clearly stating both their name and address. They will be given 3 minutes to talk. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing statements if desired and in response to testimonies given by the preceding speakers within a 5-minute time limit. And then the hearing will be closed and the case will be taken under submission. Decision. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at the hearing or submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter, not today's date. Appeals. Under the appeal provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decisions may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from the Building and Safety Section, Permit Services Center, located on the first floor of this building, just down the hall. Speaker cards, if you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker forms provided at the front door and submit it to a planning assistant. Also, I would like to inform you that that the official proceedings of the hearing today are recorded on tape as part of the public record. All right, we are going to begin with the calendar now. We'll start with variance case number PVAR 2009-045. This is, the applicant is it Pujlik Design Associates, Bruce McPherson. The property owner is Steve Kay. This is an application for a setback variance to allow an 8-foot-high decorative block wall at the western property line to extend into the 25-foot required street front setback area. The project is located at 320 Mission Road in the R3050 zone. And Chris Baxter is the planner on this.
Mr. Kiesel, as you noted, the case here at 320 Mission Road is to allow the boundary wall between two commercial uses to extend from the rear of property site all the way down to the street. That's the applicant's request. The zoning code requires that the wall stop 25 feet from the street property line in a residential zone. And the applicant is asking you to continue the wall into the residential zone, all the way to the street property line. And it's about 4.5 feet from the face of curb to the wall. So the public right-of-way will have about 4.5 feet between the street there and the wall. Now, for a real quick background, when you look at this particular site, you have two different one property, but it's two parcels, and it's developed with a skilled nursing home. Currently, there you have a skilled nursing home here, and then they've added this here, and this addition, which includes their parking, is what's triggering the vacation of an alley and then the moving of a fence line over in this direction. This addition has not been constructed yet. It's still in the plan check process. It goes through the state of California OSHPD, and there's some city departments reviewing it. The fire department, I believe LA County is reviewing it. The planning department is reviewing it. But the applicant has been working with the city to keep continuing processing the application at this time. The triggering of the alley vacation, which was a condition of that variance approval that was several years ago, is being worked on at this time. And so the agreement between the Forest Lawn people here to the west and the skilled nursing home is they decided, let's put the wall over on your property, in other words, right across the property line. And the staff reviewed the 4 findings that the applicant submitted and tried to come up with some analysis, and we felt that we could support those 4 findings. And the wall material and colors the applicant submitted here. See these? There's a small little drawing of it here as well, and you can see the zones. And so, in general, the staff feels that the application can be supported. You have 2 commercial uses, and if the wall was completely on the commercial side of the property line, it could go all the way to the street. And at this time, there's a chain link fence that's about 8 feet, if not taller, with barbed wire on it, incidentally. And it goes all the way to the street right now. That's all on the Forest Lawn side. When they move the property line over, they're going to put a nicer wall, a block wall here, and remove the chain link fence. And it will not have barbed wire across the top, which is not allowed by code anyway.
The new wall.
The new wall, yeah. The old wall doesn't allow it. The old fence that's there now doesn't allow it. That pretty much is a quick overview of everything. I can go through it some more if you want, but I wanted to make it real brief. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It's not a difficult case to understand. There are some other nuances there, but I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Give this to
Okay.
Roger.
Actually, let me step back a little bit and look at the comments.
Oh, yeah, we got it.
Yes, sir.
Comments from other departments. All right. From city engineers, there were 3 comments. No building permit application shall be signed off by the city engineers division until the proposed alley vacation is completed and recorded with the Los Angeles County Recorder's Office. The second was the method of discharge for all on-site drainage shall be approved by the city engineer. And then the last comment from the engineer's office is separate permits are required for all work performed in the public right-of-way. The applicant shall bear all fees for the necessary permits and construction inspections for work within the public right-of-way. From the GWP Electrical Division, Glendale Water and Power Engineering has reviewed the request and is requesting the following. A minimum of 5-foot clearance shall be maintained from the face of the power pole at the southwest corner of the property. The location of the power poles adjacent to the project and their clearances shall be clearly shown on the proposed plans for approval. Access to the power poles shall be maintained at all times. The second comment, project's new wall cannot be built into the GWP utility easement. Project's new wall may not be built closer than 5 feet from the face of the existing power pole, and owner needs to file a permit to encroach. And then I believe the last set of comments were from GWP Water, and they have to do with requiring backflow prevention devices for the irrigation for the landscaping and fire service connection. And I believe those were all the comments from other departments, and there weren't any letters in the file from interested people. So, now that that's done, why don't we have the applicants come forward? The applicant.
Good morning. I'm Bruce McPherson. My address is 859 South Raymond Avenue, Pasadena, California. First thing I want to do is thank you for hearing this request for variance this morning. There's 4 findings that need to be made in order for this variance to be approved, and I'd like to go through those very quickly with you. And if you have any questions along the way, please interrupt me and ask. The first is, what are the practical difficulties or necessary hardships related to the project or the property? The alley to be vacated straddles 2 zones. It's a C-31 zone. That's the forest lawn mortuary property is in that C zone. And then an R3050 zone, which our property is located in the R3050 zone. We want to build an 8-foot concrete masonry fence down the middle of what is currently the alley, and but build it completely on the nursing facility side of the property line, the new property line down there. So the wall we want to build completely on the nursing home property. The R3050 zone does not allow an 8-foot wall in the front setback, and that front setback requirement is 25 feet from the street. The commercial zone that Forest Lawn is in does not have that same requirement. In other words, that wall 8 inches over could be built at the 8-foot height. We do need to build the fence on the skilled nursing property side, in as much as that this whole project is being driven by the alley vacation is being driven by our addition project, and it's important for us to bear all of the responsibility and liability and costs of the project on the skilled nursing facility side without encumbering the forest lawn side. That's an important point. Both property owners, Forest Lawn as well as the skilled nursing facility, are required to agree to the alley vacation, and Forest Lawn has made it known to us that they need to have the security of that parking lot, which they currently enjoy through the use of that chain link fence that Mr. Baxter pointed out. The 8-foot fence, that 8-foot concrete block fence that we would build, would provide them with the security that they would require in that respect. If the new CMU fence is not built on our property line or on our side of the property, but were built on, say, down the center of the property line or built on the forest lawn side of the property line, it would entail some very complex legal documents and agreements, which would essentially render the project undoable. Condition 2, or finding 2, what is unique about the property? that's involved or the intended use or development. As mentioned, the uniqueness of the property is that it straddles the two zones, and the one side allows the 8-foot fence while the other side doesn't. So it's a matter of if the fence were built 8 inches to the west, it would be allowed by right. If it's built on our property in the residential zone, then it's not allowed, and that's probably the most unique character of the request here. Why will granting of the variance not be detrimental to the public welfare? If the variance is granted, the security and privacy of forest lawn mortuary property will be maintained, whereas if it is not granted and the wall is built on the R3050 property, the wall will be 8 feet tall until the 25-foot setback, and then will have to be reduced to 18 inches, which is what would be allowed in the R3050 zone in that setback, which could pose security or privacy issues for forest lawn mortuary, or the alternative would be it would jog over into the C zone, which would allow the 8-foot high, and that would be aesthetically objectionable. I think everybody agrees with that particular assessment. The new 8-foot tall wall CMU fence will replace an older and less attractive existing chain link fence, and it will be designed in accordance with the City of Glendale's current design standards. Allowing the new 8-foot tall CMU fence in the front setback of the R3050 zone directly adjacent to the C3 zone will have no practical negative impact to the R3050 zone setback, as the new 8-foot tall wall CMU fence is allowed in the C3I zone, 8 inches to the west, as we mentioned. Also, there are no residences in the immediate area which would be affected by the building of that 8-foot wall in that front setback. By will granting the variance be in keeping with the objectives of the applicable regulations. The objective of not allowing the 8-foot tall fence in an R3050 zone front setback is to maintain a residential character on street frontage of the R3050 zone. There are no residences within 85 feet of the alley, whether the fence is located entirely in the C3I zone, straddling the two zones, or in the R3050 zone. The transition between the two zones is effectively the same, and there is no real difference in what the ultimate effect would be in terms of how it impacts the ordinances. If there are any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them at this time.
Sure. Okay, I've got a couple. Just for clarification, the new property line is here,
That's correct.
midway down the alley.
That's correct.
And you're proposing the wall just inside that on your
That's correct.
property. So what you're saying is if the wall was just on the other side, code would allow it.
Code would allow it.
Okay. So that was one thing. The chain link fence that's currently, is it right here, I think?
Yes, it is.
Is that going to be removed?
Yes, it will.
You know?
Yes. That's the plan.
Okay. And then can you go over again why the fence has to be constructed on your property versus like a shared, or
Certainly.
somehow cooperate with forest lawn, since the variance is...
Yeah, absolutely. The as I mentioned, the alley vacation is driven by our request to build our addition to the skilled nursing facility. That's the existing skilled nursing facility.
The expansion of that, right?
The expansion,
Okay.
exactly. If we weren't expanding, the alley vacation wouldn't be triggered at this time. None of this would be in front of you, and we'd all be doing other things right now. In as much as that's the case, the cost of building that fence and the cost of making this all happen, even the cost of going through the alley vacation, is being borne by the skilled nursing facility with no impact at all to the forest lawn property and ownership.
Okay.
And that's probably the main reason for that. And if we were to build the fence on their side, then what would then essentially become their property once the alley is vacated, then there's fairly costly legal agreements that have to be taken place, maintenance agreements, where the skilled nursing facility is going to be obligated and liable for the ongoing maintenance and appearance of the wall. And so if it was on the forest lawn property, then we have to go through some very complicated agreements, which
Okay.
simply putting it on this side we could forego.
Okay. And then I've got one other question. In the letter from, or in the comments from GWP Electrical
Yes.
Engineering, they're requesting that there's a 5-foot clearance to be maintained between the face of the power pole at the southwest corner, and then no new wall can be installed within the utility easement. Can you show me where those are on these
Can I come
plans?
back
Oh,
on
yeah,
it?
yeah, sure.
The power pole is in approximately this location right here.
Okay, so it's within the alley,
It's in the current.
it's within
alley.
the current alley
Yeah.
now, but after the vacation, it's going to be on Forest Lawn property.
Yeah, well, yes, exactly. Forest Lawn property. There is an easement that is there. I believe it's a 6 by 12. I could be off on the size exactly.
Okay,
And what the plan is relative to the alley vacation that's currently being processed is that the 8-foot high fence would come down and stop at about this point.
Uh-huh.
And then there would be a closure that's here, so there would be access to the pole, and we wouldn't be building within its right-of-way.
okay, so would the fence, would the wall, the new wall extend down here then?
The new wall would stop approximately here.
Okay, so it's not exactly,
Not exactly like
okay,
that.
okay.
But that's being dealt with through the alley vacation application and review process.
Okay, so you would be able to comply with their
Yes.
requests?
Yes.
With some minor modification to what's shown on these
Absolutely.
plans? Okay,
We don't have any problems with any of the conditions or requests that any of the departments came up with.
okay. And actually, well, the wall that extends west into Forest Lawn, is that going to match what you're proposing, the block wall?
At this time, I don't know that it's been identified as to what it actually is going to be. I think that's going to be fleshed out in the alley vacation process.
Okay, and will that be Forest Lawn's responsibility since
That's
it's
their
on their?
responsibility, yes.
Okay.
And they're aware of that.
Okay. Okay. There is another speaker, Mr. Sheldon Baker. Thank you.
I'm Sheldon Baker, and I'm the attorney for the owner of the property. Just some very brief comments, making it clear, when the alley is vacated, one half goes to Forest Lawn, one half goes to the owner of the convalescent property. And as has been stated repeatedly, that process is underway right now and winding its way administratively through the city. Secondly, just to point out, the pictures that are being displayed of the properties in the area, those are old pictures. The homes on the north side of Mission have all been removed, and a building process is underway as we speak. And the homes that show on the east side of the alley,
Talking about-
those are all gone, and that property is owned by the same owners of the convalescent facility property. The homes that are on the east side of the alley that is being vacated are also all gone. And again, that's the same owner on north side and south side. Then to the, on the east side. Then to the west of the alley is Forest Lawn, and to the south of the alley is Forest Lawn also. So there's only really two property owners. Our offices worked on the agreement, negotiated the agreement with Forest Lawn for the placement and construction of the wall, even though it's on our client's property. And Forest Lawn is fully aware of all the steps that are being going on, and they were contacted as late as this week to make sure they were well aware of this hearing, and they are.
Is anybody here from Forest
Lawn? I don't believe anyone from Forest Lawn is here, and we did not think they were going to even attend.
Okay.
That would be my comments, unless you have any questions.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
Sure. Okay, Mr. McPherson, do you have any closing comments? You've got a couple minutes to do that. Do you want to cover anything else?
All I would like to say is, please decide in our favor.
Okay. All right. Okay, thanks. The public hearing is closed now, and we'll take this case under submission. Thanks. All right. The next case scheduled for this morning is case at 615 through 617 South Bryan Boulevard. Conditional use permit case number PCP 2009-19. Parking reduction permit case number PPRD 2009-008. And parking use permit case number PPUP number 2009-005. The applicant is requesting conditional use permit, parking reduction, and parking use permits to allow the change of use of the building from a tavern to a full-service restaurant, offering the on-site sale, service, and consumption of all types of alcoholic beverages, not providing the required number of parking spaces, and proposing off-site parking for its patrons on an adjacent lot. Again, the project is located at 615 through 617 South Brand Boulevard. And let me go through the comments first. Okay, from the police department, they have their traffic bureau is concerned about the parking reduction and how that could impact the neighborhood residential streets. The vice detail is concerned that the location, that the location is in conflict with the proposed business model. The large dining area and past history of the location make it a possible candidate for a shift from what they're proposing as a full-service restaurant to a nightclub. And they strongly recommend conditions be placed on the location that adheres to the proposed full-service restaurant and night to a nightclub. They have also reviewed the applicant's altered plan that calls for a smoking area outside, and they are not opposed to this request as long as it complies with the city's clean air ordinance. They have 3 suggested conditions: no dance floor to be constructed and no dancing allowed. There shall be no valet parking. And the 3rd suggested condition, there shall be no stage constructed or live entertainment. This comment comes in from Neighborhood Services. They're concerned that the project is going to go from a restaurant that is being presented as a restaurant but will actually be operated as a banquet hall. They'd like all discretionary actions considered together. The site is currently vacant. No valid business license has occupied the site in over 4 years. Let's see. The current facility, they're stating it was never used as banquets, and as such, the 30% rule will apply. The facility may be used as a full-service restaurant, which it's being proposed now. It may not solely be used as a banquet hall without a use variance. They also note that it is important to note at this preliminary stage that the city's secondhand smoke exposure ordinance has certain requirements, would limit the use of the area for any activity that involves smoking. Only 25% of all outdoor seating may be designated or used as smoking permitted areas, subject to distancing requirements from non-smoking areas. If the patio is covered, all tables must be smoke-free with one limited exception, but they don't go into that. And then finally, the lack of parking continues to be a frustration for merchants and residents throughout the community. Glendale streets are already negatively impacted by the lack of needed parking at local businesses. Neighborhood Services has concerns regarding approval of any entitlements request, which may further exacerbate this problem. Okay, those are from Neighborhood Services. The fire department wants the applicants to be aware of the permit requirements for a fire alarm, provide code-compliant emergency lighting. They will need a industrial waste pretreatment and permit, fire sprinklers and permit for that, and ensure code-compliant exiting. GWP Electrical Engineering requests that the following shall apply. The developer is responsible for the full cost of any relocation of existing GWP electrical facilities as required as a result of the project. And then the existing power pole clearances and new easements required at owner developer's responsibility and expense. From Public Works, looks like they have a number of code requirements. Pretty standard code requirements, nothing extraordinary for this application. Integrated waste, their comment is providing sufficient trash and recycling containers to accommodate the increase in trash. Traffic and Transportation suggested a parking study, which I believe they've done. And that was it for the comments. So maybe the case planner can come up and do a presentation.
Yes, thank you. Planning Hearing Officer Kiesel. My name is Milka Toledo. I am the case planner for this project located at 615 through 617 South Brand Boulevard, also known as to be called Safari Restaurant. This is a change of use from a tavern to a full-service restaurant offering the on-site sales, service, and consumptions of all types of alcoholic beverages. They're not providing the required number of parking spaces. They're proposing off-site parking for its patrons and on the adjacent parking lot to the south. As indicated, there is an environmental negative declaration on file, PEIF 209-014. As far as the zone, it is located on South Brand on the corner. Actually, it encompasses the northwest corner of Maple Street and Brand. That's the location of the parking, which is currently vacant. And north of that is the existing structure, which currently is vacant. It used to be occupied by Hypnotic Lounge was the previous use, which was classified as a tavern according to our files. So again, the site encompasses that area. The corner of the vacant lot will be used as the off-site parking for the restaurant, and then the restaurant will be located on the adjacent parcel to the north. The portion of the site is developed, or in this case, the portion of the site is developed with a vacant 5,600 square foot, one-story commercial building with 8 on-site parking spaces. Regarding the comments that you mentioned from other city departments, the police department and neighborhood services department did have concerns and suggested conditions. Some of them have been incorporated as suggested conditions in the findings. In addition to that, some of the concerns noted in the neighborhood services comments related to the previous use. And again, most of them have, or in this case, have been addressed. For example, they are proposing a family-style full-service restaurant. They have amended their floor plan to reflect that. We are incorporating, again, suggested conditions to ensure that that full-service restaurant use does take place. And the applicant, I'm sure, will address that in her presentation. In the analysis, as far as again, there are 3 entitlements. I will go over the CUP request and then the parking reduction permit and parking use permit, respectively. As indicated, the previous business was Hypnotic Lounge. The use had several code and law enforcement violations due to noncompliance with the original conditional use permit and zoning use certificate. However, the business owner of Hypnotic Lounge permanently ceased operations, and currently there is a new business owner for the project. The intent of the new owner, again, is to establish a new family-style full-service restaurant and provide off-site parking for its patrons. As previously indicated, there are 8 spaces on the site. However, they will be relocated in order to build or construct the new covered outdoor patio area, which will take place in that parking area that currently exists, and for that reason they're relocating their parking off-site on the adjacent lot. The existing, a total of 17 spaces will be provided for the restaurant, where 26 spaces are required. The operation of the parking lot in the CS zone is conditionally permitted and shall comply with the provisions or the parking provisions of Title 30 in our zoning code. So I just want to emphasize, though, the CUP request is not only for the service of alcoholic beverages, it also includes the operation of the parking lot in the CS zone. And I will allude to that in the findings. Again, the ancillary service of alcoholic beverages at the restaurant is not anticipated to intensify the parking demand to any significant degree. There was an environmental initial study prepared. In addition, there was a parking study prepared for the project, which addressed any potential environmental impacts associated with the existing parking shortage. Regarding the police department comments, they noted that there were 96 crimes in the area, which is 3% above the citywide average of 93, but the calls that they had, which were 3, were for Hypnotic Lounge. So again, were for the previous use. So we feel that due to the change of use from a tavern to a full or family-style full-service restaurant, the calls for police service are likely to decline, and therefore the use would not be detrimental to the public welfare. As far as the analysis for the parking reduction permit, as indicated, the restaurant will be 5,106 square feet, and the covered outdoor patio area will be 1,800 square feet. The total amount of parking spaces proposed are 17, where 26 are required, so they have a shortfall of 9 spaces. and that is based on a 10 per thousand parking calculation, 10 per thousand of the total floor area of the restaurant. The Traffic and Transportation Division did review the parking study, where it shows that or in this case, the findings in the report show that there is a higher parking demand on Saturday during lunch hours. This issue was further analyzed in the environmental study. The parking study showed that parking to serve the new restaurant use is available along Brand Boulevard during the week, weekends, peak and off-peak hours. And in summary, it concluded that the parking study demonstrates that there is adequate on-site parking to accommodate the 9 additional spaces required by the zoning code. And lastly, regarding the parking use permit, we've established that they are proposing 17, and that will be located or proposed on the adjacent lot to the south, which is 617 South Brand. The site is designed currently as a parking lot. In addition to that, there's another parking lot located directly to the west. However, they are strictly proposing their parking, or in this case, for their patrons, exclusively on the parking lot on the northwest corner. So in doing so, they've designed it in such a way that there will be planters to serve as a barrier or to separate the two parking lots. So there is no shared parking proposed at this facility. And I've alluded to that in the findings, and I will highlight it when I go over it. The operation hours of the parking lot will be the same as the hours for the restaurant. It's strictly, again, designed to serve parking for the patrons for the restaurant exclusively. The overall design, the location, the size, and the operating characteristics are compatible with the existing and future land uses on the site and the vicinity of the subject property. Again, given the proposed parking lot complies with the zoning code and is adjacent to similar such uses. The subject property, again, is in the CS/DD zone, where the parking lot is conditionally permitted as a use. There are, again, other parking lots or structures in the immediate area. Staff believes that all 4 findings for both for the CUP, for the parking reduction permit, and the parking use can be made in a positive manner, and therefore recommends approval of these entitlements. And we do have suggested conditions for the planning hearing officer. And if you'd like, I can go over the findings and highlight some of the conditions.
Sure, you can do that if they're, any unique ones.
As far as some of the conditions that I'd just like to highlight, for example, in the CUP, again, because the applicant is proposing smoking in the outdoor covered patio area, and by default they are required to comply with the city's fresh air ordinance, but I would like to emphasize that the proposed future floor plans, if it's amended for some reason, that the proposed full-service restaurant adheres to the city's fresh air smoking ordinance. There are specific requirements, especially next to, or in this case, the covered patio, because it's adjacent to a door, because it's adjacent to windows, whether they're operable or not. It's not identified on the plans, but it's been an actual communication, verbal communication, that this is the latest version that's pinned on the board. But
Do you know whether that complies or not?
according to the applicant, it does.
Okay, I can ask.
Also, another condition I'd like to highlight is that we're suggesting to limit the restaurant operation hours from 11 a.m. to midnight, Monday through Sunday. And that the authorization granted shall be valid, or in this case, that the conditional use permit shall be valid for a period of 3 years, at which time a reapplication must be made. For the parking reduction permit and the parking use permit, I'd like to highlight the condition that requires that a covenant and agreement satisfactory to the city attorney be obtained and recorded for the new parking lot prior to the issuance of a zoning use certificate. No valet parking is allowed, and no shared parking is proposed. or allowed in this case. And that concludes my presentation. If there are any questions for staff, I am available.
Thanks. Okay, there are at this point 4 speakers. I'm assuming one of the applicants would like to speak first. Do you want to do it? Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Milka. Good morning, Mr. Kiesel. My name is Janelle Williams, Williams Land Use Services, 2418 Honolulu Avenue in Montrose. I'm representing the applicant, George Halablian, today. I will start with the findings for the conditional use permit for alcoholic beverages. He is going to be applying for a 47 liquor license through the Alcoholic Beverage Control. That's a bona fide restaurant. It's
Okay.
not a tavern, and it's
Okay.
not a... Okay. As Milka had alluded to, there was an extensive initial study done which related to the parking, and I'm sure all of that information is in the file. But starting with the CUP, the first finding is, how would the proposed use be consistent with the various elements and objectives of the general plan? The use will be consistent with all of the various elements and objectives of the general plan and the South Brand plan. Proposed restaurant will be a welcome change from the blighted condition that exists at the site today. Formerly, the location was used as a bar, nightclub, tavern,
etc.
not permitted to be used as it was. The new tenant is proposing a complete building renovation and a change in the use from that nightclub to full-service restaurant. The proposed restaurant is located in the CSDD zone, where restaurants may be allowed in agreement with the commercial specialty designation of the South Brand specific plan. It will be a neighborhood establishment serving residents as well as patrons and employees of local business. The use as a restaurant is permitted, subject to the approval of this CUP. Because of its location in the South Brand specific plan area, a conditional use permit is required also for exception to the parking requirements. We therefore include our request for parking on an off-site lot at a reduced number of spaces in this conditional use permit. Second finding, why will the proposed use and its associated structures and facilities not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare, or to the environment? The restaurant and its adjacent parking lot will be a vast improvement to the prior use. The new restaurant will operate to a high standard consistent with the development standards of the City of Glendale. The conditional use permit, conditions of approval, and the State of California ABC regulations and conditions. The sale of alcoholic beverages will be an accessory to the primary restaurant use, and the proposed outdoor patio will be covered and accommodate the smoking of hookah. The area is built out with commercial, auto, neighborhood, and pedestrian uses throughout the South Brand Boulevard area. We have no reason, with proper city review and the imposition of standard conditions of approval, to expect any detriment to occur with the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-site consumption at this location. Also, the size is adequate in size, shape, topography to accommodate the proposed restaurant use and the patio. Currently, the site is blighted, and the adjacent parking lot is at best unsightly, overgrown, and not very well kept up. The condition will be greatly improved with the proposed upgrades to the property and the adjacent parking lot. Why will the proposed use and facilities not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property? The service of alcoholic beverages for on-site consumption is a convenience to the local patrons and a natural accompaniment to the restaurant. The ability to purchase an alcoholic beverage with a meal is anticipated by patrons, and no detriment would occur with responsible exercise of that privilege, consistent with all of the laws of the state of California. The new restaurant will offer a nice atmosphere where a patron can enjoy conversation with friends over an alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverage with a casual dining menu. The location is well situated with respect to other facilities and would not impact property values or normal development within the surrounding area. Service of alcoholic beverages in conjunction with the subject restaurant will not cause any conflicts with any surrounding development. The adjacent parking lot will be well maintained, cleaned regularly, kept free of weeds, debris, and trash at all times. And the fourth finding, explain how adequate public and private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are or will be provided for the proposed use. All structures, parking, streets, and utilities are existing and are adequate for the existing establishment. The adequacy of the public infrastructure will not be affected by this application. Off-street parking is available in a dedicated lot adjacent to the property, and that's immediately adjacent to the property. And the existence of the restaurant will not create an impact on traffic patterns in the area or any burden on existing public facilities or infrastructure. The basic elements are so arranged that traffic congestion is avoided, pedestrian and vehicular safety and welfare are protected, and no adverse effects will occur on any of the surrounding properties. And because this is an alcoholic beverage application, if you wish, I will go through the additional findings.
Yeah, you don't necessarily need to do that.
Okay.
They're actually, there are considerations in order to make the findings, so
Okay.
you need to do that.
Just for your information, there is one existing on-sale establishment serving alcoholic beverages in that census tract where 6 are allowed.
Okay.
Okay? I'll answer any questions you may have, or someone else can speak at this time. It's up to you.
Are you going to go through the other findings for the
parking-
parking use and the
Sure.
parking reduction?
The parking reduction permit, I will, the staff report on this is very thorough, and I will just refer to it, and as well as my application, but I would like to add that were it not for the covered patio, in other words, if we were leaving that open to the sky or adding a trellis instead of a solid overhang, there would be no need to ask for parking reduction permit, because the 8 existing spaces could just be moved over into the next lot, and we would not have to ask for that additional entitlement. But for the fact that we have a covered patio to keep the rain off of patrons, we think that's reasonable, and George was very adamant that he wanted to offer that to his patrons. So that was the reason for asking for that. And as far as the parking use permit, this, again, we are using the lot that is immediately adjacent. Unlike with some of the other applications I've seen, it's within, if you can park it within 300 feet or so, then that's considered. But since we have the same ownership on both the subject property and the adjacent parking lot, and they have made an agreement, and we're willing to covenant that, then the staff is supporting it, and I would request that you support it as well.
Okay.
Okay?
Was there anybody else on your team that was going to?
Yes, the leasing agent is here, Sean Madadian, and he's here to speak to, any issues that you want to ask him about, but he can speak to the covenant and the
Okay.
parking and the agreements.
And then
The
is there-
property owner, Mr. Shamolian, is here,
Okay.
and the applicant, George Halablian,
Okay.
who would be operating the restaurant, is here.
Okay. Maybe I'll just have everybody speak that wants to speak
Okay.
first, and then
Sure.
questions. So, Mr. Shamolian?
Good morning. My name is Shamulian. Address is 17328 Ventura Boulevard, number 423, Encino, California. I'd like to first tell about myself that I am a 30 years business investor in the city of Glendale. I am the owner of the Computer Palace. Started 1980 in Glendale, and the headquarters of the Computer Palace was in Glendale, and was bringing millions of the dollars sales tax to the city of Glendale based on 30 years business in this city. When the business of the computer came down with the change of the concept of the retail, I moved my investment to the real estate on the Brand Boulevard. I purchased this property. I can tell you sincerely from my heart that when I purchased this property, I didn't want it to have the club and those type of the operation that they had, but was obligated to the lease contract that I had with the owner. And then but it's the other way, bring some income for me to pay the mortgage and the tax and other expenses that the property has.
When did you purchase the property?
The 615, 617.
When?
I purchased it, I believe, on 2001 or 2002.
Okay.
2001 or 2000, I don't remember exactly. Then when I purchased this one, this property was a hypnotic club, and I was having lots of problem to enforce them to obey the law, because this is the way I am myself. And eventually the city of the Glendale shut them down. And it's almost about 2 years that I don't get any incomes from that. And I'm very happy at this moment that from that club type bar is converting to the family type restaurant that is in a good for the business surrounding the area. And I hope that this new changes will bring the better people to the area, and then as the other way, because I own the next land also, I added that specific part of that land for the parking for this restaurant. And I hope that I get the successfully the permit that they can build a nice family restaurant.
Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Sean, is it Medadian?
Good morning. My name is Sean Medadian, resident of Glendale. My office is at 501 North Central in Glendale. I'm a real estate broker representing parties in this transaction. I'd like to mention something about how it came about and how we leased it to this applicant, gentleman, Mr. George. When this property was presented to me, it was originally a 5,000 square feet building on an 8,000 square feet lot, which I understand this was operated in the last 20, 30 years as a tavern or nightclub or what have you. I don't remember any traffic problem we ever had or parking, simply because the nightclub was operating at night and Brand Boulevard usually is empty at night time. However, because of what happened to the old business and the city shut the business down, all the permits were discarded from this building, and it's kind of unfortunate that we're punishing the landowner of cutting all the permits. However, we discussed with landlord, and when it was presented to us to lease the property, that we definitely need more parking for whatever use we propose for new business. So that was the reason that the landlord generously proposed the next door, and we're kind of lucky that the landlord owned the next door lot to add to the parking lot of the existing business. So now we have about 17,000 square feet land with 5,000 square feet building. So it's kind of a benefit if we do and approve such a business. And also I think it's definitely an upgrade to come from a nightclub business to a family-oriented business, which that's what we are proposing. There's one more thing I'd like to add, and I think Mr. Shamulian emphasized that briefly. It's the hardship of what the landlord is going through because of what happened to the previous business. It's unfortunate that what happened to the previous business, again, that it's kind of giving this hard condition to this building that we absolutely cannot rent it to any business but maybe the minimum of an office use at this point with the situation of the parking that we have. So I'm strongly asking if you could find it for favor of this business, and hopefully we can open up a restaurant that it's good for the neighborhood and and surrounding businesses.
All right. Thank you.
you.
Miss Lisa Black.
Hi, my name is Lisa Black, 5776 Glendale Canyon Road, Westlake Village, California. I represent the business directly to the east, across the street, CalStar Motors, and most of my questions have been answered. I think the only remaining question is, as we're preparing to undertake a very sizable building project ourselves across the street, what is the project timeline for this project? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Ms. Williams, would you like to come back up and have your oh, actually, before you do, is there anybody else that wants to speak on this item? Okay. If you can come back up, I've got some questions you can maybe answer.
Okay.
Her question, and then anything else you want to say.
Thank you, Ms. Black. I'd be willing to talk to you after the hearing as well. This project is proposed in one phase. We'd like to start as soon as possible. We have to go through design review board, but as soon as we receive design review approval, it's our intention to go directly into construction. Okay.
Okay.
You had some questions?
Sure. You did mention, I'm not sure exactly the words you used, but complete building renovation. What is that, inside and out? What is that?
It is a remodel of the exterior of the building and some upgrading of the interior of the building.
Okay.
But there won't be any walls coming down.
On the exterior?
Correct.
Okay. Because it looks like from the elevations that you provided and the pictures, it's pretty similar, aside from
Yeah.
3 windows on the Brand Boulevard elevation.
If you look at the photos, you can see that it's a pretty tired building. It's in need of.
So besides those 3 windows, are you going to and the proposed roof? Are you going to do anything else?
No.
Okay.
I wish the designer could have been here this morning, because he's been in discussions with Stephanie, and
Okay.
they've been working on this plan for quite some time, and I haven't been privy to all of those discussions.
Okay. The biggest change that I'm seeing is the large covered patio.
Yes.
That takes place of the
Replaces the
existing parking spaces.
Correct.
What's the reason for that? I mean, that basically almost doubles the size of the restaurant.
Yes.
It's a pretty sizable addition, and because, as you mentioned, it's covered, it according to our code, we need to park it.
That's
So
correct.
What's
The applicant was very adamant. He did not want to leave that area open, but he wanted to provide that as a sheltered area where, in the Mediterranean culture, a lot of the restaurants coming up like to offer hookah smoking for their patrons. And so this is a very popular business model in that culture. And it's something that's really desired in a lot of the newer restaurants that are coming up. So that was the reasoning. He wanted to have that available for his customers at all times, not just when the sun is shining.
how many seats are out there? How many? Do you know offhand?
I don't know
Okay,
offhand.
we can count. So there will be a hookah lounge as well, or a hookah area?
A smoking area out in the patio.
Okay. Do you know offhand whether it complies with the city's clean air ordinance?
I know that Bedros, the designer, had met several times with neighborhood services, and they hammered out the details of that smoking area.
Okay.
So it does comply.
It does comply?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Hours of operation, is there any concern? I know there's a proposed condition from 11 a.m. in the morning to midnight. Are there concerns about that?
I have not.
Your end?
I have not heard of a concern from my end yet.
Okay. You planning on having lunch and dinner?
Yes.
Both? Is that large patio area, the covered area, is that critical?
Yes.
It is. Okay, so to the extent that if it's not covered, or if it's not there, then...
Then the applicant has indicated to me that he cannot go through with the project.
Okay. It's about a 300-seat restaurant. That's a pretty sizable restaurant. What's the plan for that? For it to be a family style or a neighborhood restaurant, and to include also some employees for customers in the area. That's a pretty sizable chunk of people that are going to have to, populate that restaurant on a daily basis.
As far as the floor plan goes and the seating plan, I know that Milka had been in discussions with Bedros. Maybe she could speak to that. I wasn't really involved in some
Is
of
this
those, but I
Bedros
know.
Darchan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, we did have dialogue on several occasions regarding this.
Right.
The way he had initially proposed it did not look like a full-service restaurant at all. It looked like a banquet hall type seating. And neighborhood services reviewed it, our staff reviewed it. And so what ended up happening was what you have before you, after, I want to say there was a couple modifications that took place.
Yes.
Where we had the applicant revise it in such a way that it would actually show what a typical seating for a full-service restaurant looks like. You have table for 2, table for 4, you can move them around. He can put up booths if he wished or would like to, but apparently he did not propose that. Obviously, he changed the outdoor patio area because there were still issues, the way he had designed the floor plan and the way he had designed the exterior covered patio that did not meet the city's fresh air ordinance. And this is the latest version that he submitted. That was pretty much what took place. He is fully aware of the fact that it is a large-scale restaurant, but that basically meets the owner's desire, and he's
Okay.
his way of addressing it.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Let me get back to the parking. In your initial presentation, you were explaining this is the parking that will be attached to this, new.
Correct.
And you mentioned something about parking behind here?
That's a separate parking lot that's not a part of this application. There's,
Okay.
it'll be
Is it,
physical separation.
there will be, or there already
Yes.
is?
There is, and there will
There
continue
is
to
now?
be. Yes.
Because, is it owned by the same people?
No, currently the way it's right, because I've actually driven through the interior of that parking lot. It's actually one large parking lot. And you can enter the parking lot from Maple. That's the only access. There's a driveway apron off of Maple. And you would have to drive over, if I recall, through the entire parking lot in order to get to the northwest corner. So what the applicant's proposing is to establish that landscape planter as a barrier, the one on the
This, right
west
here.
side, correct. And that would serve again as a barrier between, and separate the two parking lots. In addition to that, they are, meaning this applicant is proposing a new driveway from Brand Boulevard to access exclusively this parking lot on the northwest corner.
So this driveway is new?
That is new, yes.
Okay.
So,
So this all operates as one parking lot now?
correct, unless they've changed it.
Because if this is in here, the parking that's here has to be accessed from somewhere, correct?
Right, so that's why the new...
Over here.
Currently, the way it's accessed now is from here. Well,
Oh,
actually,
okay.
this extends this way.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's another parking lot over here. It's all one, which would be this parking lot here.
Okay.
So right now, you access it from
Okay.
this parcel here is where you can access it from, and you just drive over and cross over the entire parking lot. The two parcels you can
Okay.
cross over. And that's why they're proposing to... They're still going to maintain this driveway apron because this is going to maintain as one separate parcel and then, or remain as one. And then this new parking, well, not new parking lot, but operation of this new parking lot, which is a subject parking lot, will have a new driveway apron from Brand Boulevard, which currently does not exist.
Okay. Does this, so is this, if they function as sort of one parking lot now, is this parking lot owned by the same people?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a reason why that wasn't included also?
Well, he has other agreements
Oh, he does?
in place. I believe so.
That was
I don't know
what,
what the specific agreements are, but
that's
it's
what I
just
was
not a part
told.
of this lease at all.
Okay. Can I ask him to come up and ask him that question?
Sure.
So you own the adjacent parcel, sort of fronting
Actually,
Maple?
this is 623 and 627 South Brand that I purchased after the Hypnotic Club. And because the city required more parking, we give a half of that parking to the restaurant to be able to get the occupancy and permit. So the back part of that one, we are hopefully negotiating that one.
This-
the back of that, yes, the
this
back
right
of that.
here.
The back of that one, we are hopefully talking to the Mercedes-Benz across the street to, if we're getting to the agreement, to use it as a parking lot cars for their storage for their new cars.
Okay.
Because used to used by the Acura of the Glendale, but the Acura business came down, so they vacated it.
Okay. Because actually, I mean, and I guess I can talk while we're here. One of the things that this project is requesting is a parking reduction permit to allow them to operate their business without providing the required number of parking spaces. So Mercedes may need it for their operations, but as proposed, this restaurant also needs it to either comply or partially comply with their parking requirements. So I'm not sure whether you've talked to them about incorporating that parking lot into this application, but they're also, they're.
We usually don't want it to make it. We're going to completely close that wall. That this is not going to be a sharing parking between these two businesses at all. It's completely going to be this half of this parking going to be for the restaurant, and the other side is accessing from the Maple Street. So
Right, but that at this point, if I'm understanding correctly, that's not how it operates now, and with some frankness, one of the concerns I have is you've got a restaurant with almost 300 seats that has 17 parking spaces. So that's why I'm looking at the different, if there's parking in a lot that's owned by the same person, just adjacent, why that wasn't explored. So.
But I honestly don't think that it's about 300 people restaurant. It's a 5,100 square foot. I don't believe it that they can put it 300. I don't believe it's correct. 150 is completely wrong.
I haven't counted what's up there now, but
300 people it was a surprise to me when they said 300 people. I think that is not going to be more than 100 people, or for the putting the tables and those one for 5,100 square foot. Maximum, I believe, the way that I have experienced, they cannot put in more than 75 to 80 people.
Okay,
Maybe
I
if
looked
they
at an
arrange
earlier.
it that way. It's not a 300. It's so much exaggerated.
Yeah, I looked at an earlier floor plan, and I counted about 300 seats. This has changed. I don't know whether it's. Well, I can look at it after the hearing and see how many
I'm
seats.
positive that is wrong.
Okay. All right. Okay. That's. I've got one question about the clean air ordinance. If someone from Neighborhood Services could come up. Just confirmation, it seems like what they're proposing, they've said complies with the clean air ordinance. Can you?
I can probably give you a little bit of information. My name is John Brownell with Neighborhood Services. What the request will have to do is comply with the clean air ordinance. There are a slew of different requirements for that with regards to separation, percentage of seating, openness of the particular area, and that. So I don't at looking at the plan, it doesn't indicate where those seats may be for that.
It says, right up here, it says smoking area, mechanical ventilation needed. And then this is all vacant.
So even though that's indicated on the plan is what I would recommend to the applicant and their representatives to make sure that when they are in the final stages of finalizing their plans and that for both DRB and for submittal for plan check, is that they re-review the ordinance itself and make sure that those requirements are complied with. I know that the law had just went back to council a few weeks back, and there are some minor tweaks in that with the law. So I definitely would recommend that they go and make sure that whatever they are proposing for their smoking area is in compliance with the requirements that are going to be going into effect within the next, I would say, 30 days or so.
Okay.
There are some minor subtle changes in there, not too much dealing with the seating square footages and that, but making sure that the open areas or the areas that are designated for smoking meet those requirements as well.
Okay, so if this does get approved, a condition like a smoking area shall comply with clean air, the city's clean air ordinance
should be
okay.
Should be sufficient to ensure that those requirements are met. So
Okay.
again, as they should pull a copy of those regulations and give it to their architect to ensure that those requirements are maintained. Sure.
Okay, great.
And again, from neighborhood services standpoint, we're happy to see something going in that will replace the problem location that we've had for in the past. And in addition to that, I just want to make sure too that these approvals, if approved, will supersede all the other older approvals and that were in place before, like the old CUPs and things like that.
Yeah, they will.
Right. Good.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, I don't think I have any other questions, so I'll take the case under submission and then render a decision. All right?
Closing comments.
Oh, we already had, did you? You didn't have anything else, I'm sorry. You did, okay, well then, eliminate what I just said.
One closing comment, just to assure John Brownell that the plan that we have up there today is a result of talks with Neighborhood Services staff, and if the ordinance changes, well, we'll just go with the flow and make the changes that are necessary. Thank you very much. I just wanted to point out that obviously we're living in some very difficult economic times right now. And everywhere you look, up and down Brand Boulevard or in my neighborhood up in Montrose, for lease signs, for sale signs, coming up just about every week. So it's really encouraging to see that some people still have the courage to do something like this, to put their life savings on the line to open a new business. And it's unfortunate that George has inherited the reputation of his predecessor there at that location. He has, just to reiterate, he has nothing to do with that operator, has never met him, and it's a completely separate proposal here. It's the intention of this applicant to run a business in an ethical and legal manner, consistent with all of the codes and regulations that we have in the city of Glendale. We anticipate good things at that blighted corner. And we really ask for your support and approval of this conditional use permit, the parking reduction, and the parking use permit. And I'd like to see more support from the city and more encouragement for local entrepreneurs to come and help us to revitalize and go into those for lease areas and kind of build this city back up again. So I thank you for listening to me. And I know that this location will probably be patronized by a lot of the local residents that live in very close proximity to it. So I know that I would anticipate a lot of pedestrian traffic. So it's a good thing to anticipate and to see.
Okay.
It's part of the overall strategic plan for that area as well, to get more people out of their homes and walking around. So we think that this is a perfect fit for that location.
All right.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Okay, now I will close the public hearing, and I'll step down, and Ms. Fuentes will take over.
Okay, good morning. We're not going to take any break or recess. I'm Edith Fuentes, Planning Administrator, and I will be hearing the last case on our agenda. And I don't have any speaker card. Is someone representing this case? Let me just read for the record. Our last case is Conditional Use Permit number PCUP 2009-022, located at 1022 East Chevy Chase Drive, Suites A and B. Applicant is Oganes Menedjan Moonlight Restaurant. The owners is Oganes and Zivart Arabatlian. Case planner is Gabe Riza. This is an application for a conditional use permit to allow the sale, service, and on-site consumption of alcoholic beverages at an existing full-service restaurant located at 1022 East Chevy Chase Drive, Suites A and B, in the C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zone, described as portion of Lot 6, tract number 4716, and portion of Lot 35, Watts Subdivision. And let me just quickly go through some of the comments. I also can see we have staff from police department, so I'm just going to ask you to come forward later on and give us your comments. From integrated waste, suggested condition, area must be kept free of litter during the existence of the restaurant. Recycling containers must then be provided for collection of all cans, glass, and plastic bottles that might be discarded, and recycled items must then be properly disposed of. If you have any question or you need additional information, please contact our integrated waste section. And I also know that we have received some emails regarding this property. So at this point, I'm going to ask Gabe Riza to give us his report, analysis, and recommendation. Gabe?
Yes, good morning, Ms. Fuentes. Yes, to address those 4 letters of opposition, I will read these names into the record. First letter of opposition is Michael Schneider. Second, Michael Sheehan, followed by James Boles, and the Adams Hill Neighborhood Association President, Christopher Welch. These will be submitted to you.
Thank you. So again, for the record, we have 4
letters.
emails. They're all emails, right?
Yes.
Basically in opposition of the request.
Okay, Ms. Fuentes, the application's request is a conditional use permit to allow the on-site service, sales, and consumption of alcoholic beverages at a full-service restaurant in the C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zone. The Glendale Municipal Code requires that a conditional use permit application to allow the on-site sales, service, and consumption of alcoholic beverages within a full-service restaurant established in the C1 neighborhood commercial zone. The current business, Moonlight Family Restaurant, has operated on the site since July 16, 2009. The previous business, D Revolution Restaurant, had several code enforcement violations due to the non-compliance with conditions of their previously approved conditional use permit. Ultimately, the business owner of D Revolution permanently ceased operations. Presently, there is a new business owner for the project. The intent of the new owner is to establish a new, full-service, family-style restaurant. Staff believes that proposal will help sustain a small restaurant serving the Adams Square area. A dominantly residential community well supported by such amenities is in keeping with the city's general plan. According to the Glendale Police Department, the census tract which the property is located on allows 7 on-sale establishments. There are currently 4 on-sale establishments within this tract. Based on Part 1 crime statistics for the census tract, in 2008, there were 145 crimes, which is 56% above the citywide average in this project area. Yes, a representative from Neighborhood Services and the Police Department is in the audience for further questions. But to address some of the Glendale Police Department's comments, the dance floor has been reduced in size to 150 square feet. Originally, the dance floor exceeded 200 square feet, which had caused a change of use into a nightclub and which would have dramatically increased their parking requirement. The proposed hours of operation will be 7:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week, and the business will serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There will be a total of 51 seats within the restaurant, including 8 fixed seats at the bar. No outdoor seating is proposed, and the existing stage will remain as indicated on the floor plan. Although the stage and dance floor will remain, they are small in size. Further, limited hours of operation and the proposed conditions will help mitigate any potential impacts within the surrounding neighborhood. The applicant's request to sell alcoholic beverages should not require any new city services, harm public safety and welfare, or be in conflict with the existing anticipated surrounding land uses. No new floor area will be added to the restaurant, and this auxiliary service of alcoholic beverages to the restaurant is not anticipated to intensify the parking demand to any significant degree. The new business owner has stated he will not offer his restaurant to large-scale banquet hall type parties. Nevertheless, the restaurant is limited to only 30% of the service area for a restaurant for private parties, according to the Glendale Municipal Code. While there are residential developments located in the surrounding area, no significant impacts are anticipated since the proposal is not a tavern, not a nightclub, or banquet hall. Staff recommends approval with conditions for the following project. Now, if the zone administrator would like, I can read the 10 suggested conditions into the record.
Go ahead, for the record.
For the record, the staff has recommended condition number 1, require that the renewal of the conditional use permit in 3 years. Condition number 2, that no exterior signs advertising the sales of alcoholic beverages shall be permitted. Number 3, the premises shall not be made visible and accessible to authorized city personnel, which includes fire, police, and neighborhood services, for inspection. Condition number 4, smoking shall be permitted only in areas which comply with our city's clean air ordinance. Number 5, that the area shall be kept free of litter during the existence of the restaurant. Number 6, a clear view into the business shall be maintained during all hours of operation. Number 7, restaurant staff will monitor the parking area when business is open. Condition number 8, music shall not be heard from outside the location. Condition number 9, all doors are to remain shut. And condition number 10, hours of operation shall be limited to 7:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week.
Okay. Going back to condition number 6, when you mentioned clear view into the business, I would assume that to be no tinting of existing glasses or windows.
Yes.
So you can clearly see from the outside, inside, and from inside to outside.
That is correct.
Okay. And I think that covers a lot of the police department's concerns. So, okay. So basically, staff is recommending approval of the application.
Yes, Ms. Fuentes.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and ask Lieutenant Bruce Fox to come in. We also have staff from Neighborhood Services, so if you have something to say, just come forward after. Go ahead.
Bruce Fox, Police Lieutenant from the Glendale Police Department in charge of Special Investigations. As Mr. Reza had mentioned earlier, we did have initial concerns with the initial project and the scope of the dance floor, inasmuch as that the dance floor seemed to predominate the location and appeared to be more of a nightclub operation than a restaurant. We're very grateful that the plans have been changed and the dance floor has been diminished down in size. Also, the recommended conditions should mitigate some of our concerns about the noise and nightclub type activity that may go on. Many of the conditions that were mentioned by Mr. Reza came as a result of a dialogue between himself and I in regards to this, the amendments that were made, so that should mitigate as well. Just one concern I do have that I want to bring to your attention, ma'am, is that I believe the new ownership took over in July of 2009, and I did through investigation find one flyer, what we call a flyer party, where there was a promotion for a new act, live band kind of act that was in September of 2009, and those kinds of uses at the location could amplify neighborhood complaints as has happened at other locations. So we just need to be careful about what kind of activities are conducted there. In the live entertainment permit as processed by the city clerk, it was mentioned 2 to 4 piece bands, DJ, karaoke, comedians, that kind of activity, and that was approved by my department. As long as the scope remained in nature, it should not be a problem. So I think that, again, just the sensitivity to those issues and the conditions as outlined by Mr. Reza should mitigate in that location.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brownell from Neighborhood Services.
Hi, my name is John Brownell with Neighborhood Services. It seems like we're dealing with a lot of cases that have had some past history. And so that's what we're really concerned about, is making sure that those histories don't continue to move forward. I just probably want some clarification on this one, just for the record, is this is a neighborhood type zone, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be a neighborhood restaurant, correct?
It's a C1, right, C1 neighborhood commercial zone.
So it's not going to be, and that's going to be the primary function of the business establishment, is going to be a neighborhood type restaurant. It's not going to be a club, a nightclub, a banquet location or anything like that. I just want to make sure that the primary activity on that property is going to be considered a restaurant, and that the alcohol sales is secondary to that activity.
The restaurant.
Correct. Okay, great. That'll be great.
Thank you very much for coming. And that's basically the same concern that I have, because I remember denying the last conditional use permit application for this site, and without going through any of those details, I'm going to go ahead and just ask the applicant and whoever else is here to speak on this issue, and we'll discuss some of my concerns. So, to present the case, Mr. Berridge Karapetian.
Thank you, Ms. Fuentes. Thank you, Mr. Riza, for the presentation. My name is Berridge Karapetian. I'm speaking on behalf of the operator that is trying to operate Moonlight Restaurant in that neighborhood. I will invite Mr. Menedjian, who is the owner, operator, to join me so that I can help answer the questions that you have. Would you like me to first read into the record the answers to the conditional use application? Or would
What
you like
I
me
would
to
like you
address
to do first is to come up here and kind of walk me through the proposed restaurant, how it's going to operate, and what's in it.
Okay.
If you
Let me invite Mr. Menedjian also to join me so that we can do it together.
No,
Is that-
we'll just do it one by one.
Okay.
Can you please put the timer, Shanasa?
Okay.
Why don't you just walk me through the proposed floor plan?
This is, so the entrance is through here. Okay, and there's a small stage area. Back here is the kitchen area. We have added he has added additional stove and oven, so it's a much larger ability to service the individuals that will be. The dance floor is a little bit smaller than what it appears over here because there are seating right along here, tables that have here, but it will accommodate about 51 seating in this area predominantly, and there is the existing that used to be there. There is still the bar area if the permit is granted, so that will remain in that area. So, that's the parking is down below, and that's pretty much what it looks like.
So basically, nothing is changing with the interior layout?
No. Here are
Except-
there instead of benches, there are tables over here, and the benches are more along this area. So they've been relocated, so tables have been brought here, and bench sitting is more here and here.
Okay, good. Thank you. You can go. Go ahead.
Okay, you want to read?
Yes, you can
Okay.
go through the
All right.
findings.
Okay, so conditional use permit application, the first question, how will the proposed use be consistent with the various elements and objectives of the general plan? Alcoholic beverages service is in conjunction with a full-service restaurant in a normal business operation consistent with the commercially designated locations identified in the land use element of the general plan. The general plan anticipates that full-service restaurants, including on-site liquor sales, are appropriate uses in the commercial districts. The project is consistent with the surrounding neighborhood and in keeping with the various elements and objectives of the general plan. The existing establishment is located on the C1 zone where restaurants may be allowed in agreement with the community services designation of the land use element of the general plan. Item B, why will the proposed use and its associated structures and facilities not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare or to the environment? The use and its associated structures and facilities have not proven to be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment. The existing development meets the intent of the zoning ordinance and will not be detrimental to the public health or safety. Similar uses exist in the area and have not proven to be detrimental to the general welfare or of the neighborhood or the environment. The restaurant and parking areas have been in operation without any detrimental effects to the public health or safety, the general welfare of the neighborhood or the environment. The sale of the alcoholic beverages will be an accessory to the primary restaurant use. The area is built out with commercial, neighborhood, and pedestrian uses throughout the area. The existing structure and use meet the intent of the zoning ordinance, and we have no reason with proper city review and the imposition of standard conditions of approval to expect any detriment to occur with the sales of alcoholic beverages. C, why will the proposed uses and facilities not adversely affect or conflict with the adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property? The existing use will not adversely affect or conflict with the adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property, including the introduction of new uses into the area. The full-service restaurant is well situated with respect to other facilities and has not adversely impacted existing facilities, property values, or normal development within the surrounding areas. The service of alcoholic beverages The service of alcoholic beverages for on-site consumption is a convenience to the local patrons and a natural accompaniment into the area. The ability to purchase an alcoholic beverage with meals is anticipated by patrons, and the police record shows that there has been no detriment in the past because of it. The location is well situated with respect to other facilities and will not impact property values or normal development within the surrounding areas. The incidental serving of alcoholic beverages in conjunction with the subject restaurant has not caused any conflicts with the surrounding development in the past and is not expected to do so in the future. Final item D, explain how adequate public and private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measures are or will be provided for the proposed use. The structure, parking, streets, and utilities all exist and are adequate for the current and future restaurant operation. No changes in operation are proposed, so the adequacy of the public infrastructure will not be affected by this application. Adequate public and private facilities such as setback, utilities, landscaping, and open space are provided for the existing use. The structure is properly accommodated and located on the site. All structure, parking, streets, and utilities are existing and are adequate for the existing establishment. The adequacy of the public infrastructure will not be affected by this application. Off-street parking is available on the property, and the existence of the Moonlight Family Restaurant has not created an impact on traffic patterns in the area or created any burden on public facilities or infrastructures. And if you have questions, we'll be happy to try and address.
I just wanted to know, I guess, if you looked at the existing or the previous files that we have on this case.
I have not personally looked at the existing. I've reviewed some of the letters that you have received.
Because I'm trying to refresh my memory. Back in February of 2009, the same application for on-site sales, service, and alcoholic beverages was denied by me. And basically, I'm trying to look at your new application to see how you have addressed or mitigated some of the issues or concerns that I had back then. And I'm going to help you walk through the denial. Actually, there are 5 more criteria that you should be able to meet or satisfy when it comes to alcoholic beverages. And last time, I was able to find item 1, it will not tend to intensify or contribute to adverse impacts because of the alcoholic overconcentration or census tract. Census tract, I think, allows 7, and there are 5 currently existing, so we're still okay. And that such use does not or will not encourage or intensify crime within the district. So, although the crime statistics for the census back in 2007 were 57% above the citywide average of 87, police departments still think this will be an okay or acceptable establishment within the area. Here's where I had some problems. Number 3, such use does or will adversely impact any other uses within the surrounding area. It is in close proximity. There is a city library. There's also a public park, and there are residential uses within the area. And I know that a lot or some of the neighbors have expressed concerns about negative impact or noise and some of those things. The previous establishment was asking to be open until, I think, 12 midnight or 1 a.m. You're proposing 11 p.m. So I see that as a positive from the previous application. If you indeed will close at 11 o'clock in the evening, basically stop serving alcohol. We normally do it like an hour before closing time, so you will stop serving alcohol at 10 or 10:30 and get everyone out of there by 11, or most probably 11:30. As far as number 4, transportation or parking needs, you mentioned that this is a neighborhood restaurant. You're hoping some of the neighbors or families will walk into the restaurant, so that kind of mitigate my issue on item number 4. And also, if you will, I think, adhere to one of the conditions as far as having employees double check the parking lot, make sure everything is okay, or even if you are going to have a small mini event or party in there, 30% of the restaurant could only be allocated for private parties or any of those, because you have a dance floor that I can see here. That's also one of the concerns I have. So again, that the proposed use right now will serve a public convenience or necessity because of the fact that you're still below the 7 allowed and you're one of the 5 within the area. So police department is going to keep double checking and neighborhood services into the business, because we do want to help small businesses come into the city if they really are legitimately operating as they mention it here or they told us they will. Our problem stems from them converting or morphing into another use as days go by or months go by. So is he the owner of... Okay, I'm going to ask him to fill out one of these. You can do it later on, but I'd like to ask you to come forward and ask you a few questions. I just want to make sure we are very clear on this establishment. Just, you can sit down, Mr.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm going to help.
you're going to translate or something? Yes. Oh, okay. Just give me his name and address for the record.
My home address, you mean?
It doesn't matter. Any place.
133 West.
Any place we can find you whenever we need to get to you.
133 West Kenneth Road.
Where's Kenneth?
In Glendale, California.
Okay.
Yes.
And your name is?
Oganes Menegian.
Oganes. Okay. So, did you just take over the business, or have you been the business owner?
No, I'm business owner from July.
July of last year.
Yeah.
So when I denied the business, the application in February, you were not part of this
No.
establishment.
Even
Okay.
I didn't know about this.
So basically, you're the fresh start and the fresh owner.
Yeah.
Okay. And your intention is to have a full-service, family-oriented restaurant in there,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Because I see a dance floor in there. How often do you think are you going to have?
If God send us customers, let's say they 4 people, family members sitting, and some of them, 2 people, they want to dance. I'm not going to be say no, right? But I don't have planning to do any banquet, any kind of, what do you think, just for my customers.
Okay, because you are allowed to have private parties. Up to 30% of your floor area can be used for that. Let's say you have 50 seats.
Yes.
30% of that, we could allocate for private parties as long as you still remain open to the public.
Yeah,
That's the key. You don't
always
close
gonna
the
be
business for any other reason except if you're doing remodeling or tenant improvement or there's something in there that needs to be fixed, then you can do that. Otherwise, you have to be open to the public at all times.
Sure, I know that.
And the case planner read some conditions that we want to impose. You should get a copy of that and make sure you have no objection or you could meet all of those conditions.
It's open.
You're okay with that? Okay. And you're going to operate 7 days a week? Or for now, 5 days or 6 days?
For now, we're gonna.
You're going to close on Mondays or
Monday.
Tuesday?
Yeah,
Monday?
Yeah.
So Tuesday to Sunday.
Tuesday to Sunday, we open 7:30 until 11.
I like it that you're going to be serving breakfast because
Yeah.
the family type restaurant should be open for breakfast or something.
I just buy 2 ovens. We put in kitchen for make it breakfast stuff, sandwich, cookies, some kind of things.
Breakfast meaning scrambled eggs and
Yeah.
sausages or something.
Food is going to be international usually.
Yeah. Okay.
We are Armenians, but even we don't like too much barbecue, shish kebab, enough, honestly.
Okay.
And mostly seafood, but we like it, and we want to change our food to healthy,
Okay, good. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Oh, another question, I forget. Are you the sole owner, or do you have partners in the business?
No, I am
you.
only partner,
It's you.
only
Okay.
owner.
Okay, good. Because I wanted to make sure if there's another partner or a third partner that they also understand what we're talking here. Or
No, I have manager over there. I'm going to explain everything, I promise.
good, we'll be there to visit. Okay, thank you.
Coming. Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Karapetian?
No, Mr. Menejan is a business owner of other businesses in Glendale, and we've always operated without any violations and problems. So I'm sure he will also adhere to the requirements and the conditions that were read out by Mr. Riza for this permit if it's granted. We
Okay,
appreciate
thank you.
it. Thank you.
Okay, next we have a neighbor, Rosa Estrada. Oh, good. I can read your handwriting. Just give me your name and address for the record.
Okay. I live in 1127 South Adams, Glendale.
Okay. And you're one of the neighbors?
Yes.
Okay.
I live across the street this restaurant, and I want to tell, when he's opened this restaurant, he never closed at 11 or 10. Every time he closed 2 or 3 in the morning. And then has a lot of music.
Is it the same guy or the same owner?
It's the same guy or not, because I don't know where is the owner.
Okay.
My point is, I can't sleep every time he's coming the police. And then the music is really low. It's not low, it's really high. And then my room is across the restaurant, so I can't sleep in. And then sometimes he's fired, he's coming the police, the people he's drink, and he say he's not drink. I don't believe it. Because the police is coming and put these things in your hands and go to the cars.
How long ago were these incidents?
Like 3 or 4 months ago. And like last Friday, is coming the police again. Because the music is really high.
Okay.
So he never closed at 11. Every time he closed 2 or 3 in the morning. I think this is too much.
Yeah.
The people, I'm working. Everybody in my house is working. And then he need get up early. So, and my neighbor has the same problem. My neighbor is not coming because has heart attack. He's told me, I'll give you the telephone and you want to call.
Okay.
So,
well, we're going to ask you to keep calling police department if there are incidents so we can have them on record.
yeah.
And when this case come back for review again, then we can put all those information on file.
Yeah, because the police, he knows, oh, I know, this is the restaurant. Every police, he knows the...
We have one person here now from our police department, and we have our neighborhood services section, so they're listening to what you're saying.
So now he say he's not sell alcohol or something.
It will be if this is approved.
Oh my God!
Because that's exactly why they are here. Is they are applying through the state alcoholic beverage control department, and they have to go through here first before they can get their alcoholic permit.
Yeah,
so.
Now he's not sell alcohol. So he thinks what happened is not sleeping the people who live over there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then and the night every time he closed the blinds, and then I don't know what happened inside. So I don't care what happened inside. My concern is I want to sleep, and then I don't want noises. Because I pay my taxes, I have my own house, and then when he's coming to this restaurant...
You're going to have to wrap up, so...
Yeah, so I have these problems.
So basically, you're in opposition of the entire application?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Lieutenant Fox, can I ask you, did you get the information you need? Perfect.
I do want to let you know, though, that prior to this meeting, I did run a location search for 1022 East Chevy Chase, and actually prior to my discussions with Mr. Reza, I did research on calls for service there. I do think there is one small problem, though, and I'd like to maybe be allowed some time to do some research, because in our police system, when you run a specific location, you rely upon the citizens to say, hey, the noise is coming from 1022 East Chevy Chase. What I'm having staff do at this moment is check the intersection of Adams and Chevy Chase and see if there's any calls related to Moonlight Restaurant, and I should have that information within the next 5-10 minutes.
Okay. Well, what I will ask you to do is just print a copy of the information, and I'll review it and then put it on file. If I have...
And granted, ma'am, I just do want to mention from our department's standpoint, if we do find significant noise complaints in that area, that would change our perspective on
Let me know.
Okay.
I will wait.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much. Neighborhood services, do you have anything you wanted to add, or no incident? Right, okay. Seeing nobody else here to speak in support or in opposition, I'll give you your closing comments, Mr. Garapetian.
Ms. Fuentes. Mr. Menegian, since he has started operating the place, has not had any functions, and I can tell, I asked him, there has been no functions in the last month that would have run into the midnight hour or beyond. His intent is to close by 11 o'clock and have the attendees patrons leave the place by 11 o'clock, going, if granted the permit, he will do that. He is willing to meet with the neighborhood association because they indicated in their letter that they had sent him something they wanted to meet, but he had never received it. So he's willing to go ahead and meet with them and work out, make sure that there is a good cooperation, because he wants it to be a neighborhood family restaurant so that it can be frequented by neighbors and people that live in the area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that offer. I will look at the police report. I will also look at the emails that we got from some of the neighbors and then make a decision based from there. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and take this case under submission. Gabe, do you have any closing comments? Or?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Take this case under submission and close the public hearing at 11:45 in the morning. Thank you very much for coming.